Hello everybody, my name is Kat Bowser. I'm your resident fantasy therapist and welcome to my channel. Those of you who are brand new, welcome. Those of you who are returning, welcome back. Always good to see you again. For those of you who are here for the first time, my name is Kat Bowser. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm also a writer working on my first novel. And on my channel, I like to dig into what I consider to be the heart of writing, the characters. And the heart of the characters is in their psychology. So that's the angle we take when we talk on my channel, is we look at plot, characters, theme, world building, all with a psychological angle. So today we are continuing my trope diagnosis video. And since we are in the month of Halloween, I am focusing on villain tropes. So if you guys have suggestions for them, definitely leave them below because villains are fun. Today we are tackling one that I actually don't see as much. I'd like to see it more, and that is the ignored epiphany. All right, so first off, what is this trope? So basically, the ignored epiphany is when the villain or other character, doesn't necessarily have to be a villain, but in this sense, I'm focusing on the villain theme, is when they come to a realization about either what they're doing, their world, some kind of major revelation, and they continue doing what they were doing in the first place. They ignore this new information and they press on. I like this one because it's pretty rooted in psychological realism, to be honest. The human brain is very, very good at rationalization. And a lot of times what the author is trying to do with the ignored epiphany is they're trying to drive home how essentially over the top or devoted or just out of control their villain is. Essentially, they are presented with the evidence of whatever they're doing that is wrong or how it's hurting other people. It's done to appeal to the villain's sensitive side. It's done to appeal to their good side in an attempt to pretty much redeem them or at least get them to stop what they're doing. And with the ignored epiphany, they recognize what they're doing, recognize the impact it has, and they keep doing it anyway. So what goes on when this is happening? I think the most important thing to realize here is that the villain understands what they're doing. They understand the impact it has. Because sometimes you have a character who is given this vast realization, they're given all this evidence, but they don't connect the dots. And that's a little different because in that case, you can make an argument that they are continuing to do what they're doing out of ignorance. They don't understand the impact. That's not the case with this trope. In this case, the villain absolutely knows what they're doing, and they absolutely understand the damage it is causing, and they're choosing to do it anyway. Choice is the big factor here, because I think that is one thing that can really separate a mediocre villain from a really good villain, is the fact that the villain chooses to continue. Now, what are they processing while this is going on? Usually, because this, like I said, is usually done to appeal to their good side, to appeal to their sensitive side, to appeal to one of their morals. So that is going to create a problem. Basically, whenever we are presented with a situation where what we believe is being contrasted with what is going on or what we're doing, the brain doesn't like it. That's usually where we get anxiety and where we get tension, frustration, things like that. And it's because, as I've mentioned probably in a couple other videos, you have essentially a moral lens through which you view the world, a lens through which you interpret why things are the way they are. So if you have a moral setting of, I have to protect, let's say I have to protect the planet, let's use that for an example, and you find out that what you're doing is harming the planet, your morals and your actions do not match anymore. And so your brain is going to try to make them match. Because if they don't, you get anxiety. And the brain does not like anxiety, because anxiety is essentially adrenaline. It's telling you, okay, something's wrong, something's dangerous, I need to be on edge. And we don't like to be on edge. Now, there are some people that chase adrenaline, but that is a different story. Based in this moment, the brain does not like to be drowned in adrenaline. It's not fun. So we have to now make this situation make sense. So one of the ways that the brain does this is what we call essentially, you've probably heard them before, defense mechanisms. There are positive ones, there are negative ones, or as we prefer to refer to them, healthy and unhealthy. So, for example, a type of defense mechanism is denial. So let's say someone close to you has passed away and you are in disbelief, you don't believe they're gone. And this usually lasts a day or so, depending on how close you were to them, before your brain kind of realizes, okay, I can't keep denying this. That is one defense mechanism. What happens with this villain in this instance is they usually use what I would consider to be a version of disqualifying the positive. Now, disqualifying the positive is usually used by people that have low self-esteem, and what it is you essentially are looking at all the evidence from your past, from your history, and you're pointing out, okay, all these times I did good, they don't count because of X, Y, Z. You come up with a reason why they don't count. With the villain going through their little epiphany, they are going to use it in a different way. So they're going to find a reason why what they're doing is okay. So they're trying to find a rationalization that will satisfy their morals, essentially yelling at them. So like the example I gave, if they have a moral that says you should not harm the planet, you're supposed to protect the planet, and let's say whatever their mission is doing is, let's say it's drilling into the earth, it's wrecking the earth, it's doing all these nasty things, then they might come up to the realization of, well, it's only damaging a small portion of the earth, and it's only going to be for the benefit of the rest of the earth. So it's not that bad. That might be one of their rationalizations. Another might be if, like, say, for example, they are hurting other people and they have a moral that you're not supposed to do that. Usually this is where you get a rationalization of, these people are different because of X, Y, Z. And that's generally where your villain will plug in something like, they weren't loyal to the empire, so they kind of caused this. They haven't been doing their part. They've been lazy. They put the blame on the people it's happening to. Victim blaming essentially. And that rationalizes it enough in their brain that their moral can stop screaming at them, because now in their mind they have put in an exception. So kind of think of it as your brain has a list of, here are things we must do, but there's little asterisks underneath one that says, except in this case, except in this case, except in this case. And we do this all the time. Everybody does this, at least to some degree. But the fun thing about doing it with the villain is you can over-exaggerate it, because, like I kind of mentioned in my video on power corrupting, is they already usually have a bunch of their mental filters kind of being a little wacky. They're already starting to find rationalization for doing what they like to do. And another thing to keep in mind is pleasure, or like instant gratification, is a very strong motivator. We are generally not as good at delayed gratification as we should be. Good example of this, you guys have probably heard of the marshmallow experiment that was done. When was this done? You know, I'm not going to give you guys a year because I honestly don't remember what year it was done. I know it's been a while, and it's still considered fairly relevant. So basically, a bunch of experimenters got a group of children, and they sat them in a room, and they put a plate with one big marshmallow on it. And they told them, you can eat the marshmallow now, or I'm going to leave for 15 minutes. When I come back, if you haven't eaten the marshmallow yet, I'm going to give you a second one. Most of the kids couldn't do it. There were a few that did, and what they found when they followed them into the future and kept track of their progress is that they generally did better in almost every aspect of life because they had learned to delay their gratification. Villains are the type of character where usually they thrive on gratification. They want it now, they want it strong, they want. And it depends on why your villain is a villain. And I think that's why this one takes a little bit of thought process, because it really depends on what your villain's motivations are, what their morals are, what their past is. But if you take those into account and you can put in a situation where they have a choice to stop doing what they're doing and they choose not to, that gives your villain about 10 more points in my book, because you are demonstrating that they have the ability to change. They have the knowledge and the know-how to process and realize that they are not the only person in the world, but they choose to do it anyway, and they choose to make these rationalizations to themselves. And that, to me, just makes a much more maniacal villain. And it's a villain that it's much easier to just root for the hero. But this is also a case where just because you do this doesn't mean that you can't do a sympathetic villain later on, because rationalization, it only works for so long. And then one of two things happen. Either your person breaks down and realizes, okay, I've been lying to myself, I can't keep doing this. Or they start to believe their own lie, and it literally becomes truth in their mind. Kind of a fun example of this, if you guys are interested. Focus, like, cross your eyes a little bit and focus on your nose. You'll probably get a blurry image of it after a little bit. But once you see it, blink and just view normally, you're probably not going to see it anymore. And the reason is that your brain has grown so accustomed to it being there that it literally erases it from your vision because it's not necessary. Same kind of thing can happen when someone tells themselves a lie or a rationalization over and over and over and over and over again. Your brain, because it takes more energy to challenge it and have to re-rationalize and everything, just starts to believe it. And that's why you can literally have people that they literally cannot determine between lie and truth anymore. And it's very hard to fix that. It's doable, but it's very difficult. But that's a fun factor to play with as well. Alright guys, so that is our trope for the day, the ignored epiphany. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please, as always, leave comments or suggestions below. I love to check them out. You can also follow me on social media if you are so inclined. And if you like this type of content, please subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss any uploads from me. I upload every Thursday and Sunday, but I'm going to give you guys a couple of bonus videos between now and then. And until next time, I hope you guys have a good one.